Welcome to the National Women's Fitness Academy podcast. We're here to talk about women's health, female hormones, body image, and all things health and fitness.
Hello, girls, and welcome back to another episode of the Women's Fitness Academy's podcast. I'm your host, C, one of the WFA's educators and a women's online coach. Today, I've got the wonderful Alana with me. Alana is a fitness and health coach. Her business, her coaching business revolves around finding your balance. It's all about nutrition, training methods that work within your lifestyle and not against it. Alana loves helping her clients, her women, to get the results that they want without having to sacrifice the things that they love. And I'm all about that, all about having fun, doing what you need to do without having to sacrifice, stuff that you really want to include in your life. So Alana, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for that lovely introduction. And thank you to the National Women's Fitness Academy for having me today. It's been a privilege to be invited on your podcast.
Love it. So good to have you. So, let's literally dive in. What made you become a coach?
This is probably more of like a long-winded, answer. But originally, I still am a registered pharmacist. So I was always like an academic girl at school. I never did sport. Fun fact, actually, when we had our chance to choose like inter-school sport, I actually chose study in the library. So I came from a background of like zero sport, athleticism whatsoever. So I obviously went down the academic route, went to university, did all that, and then was working as a pharmacist for a few years. And my brother and sister actually started going to the gym. And I started seeing the results that they were getting. And I was like, hey, like, I want, to be a part of that. I want, I really like what I'm seeing and I want to, try going to the gym. I've always been like a thin sort of girl. So for me, like going to the gym wasn't about losing weight. It was more so I wanted abs. I'd wanted nothing else but abs. And so I signed up with a casual membership. I was like, yep, I'm only going to be here for 4 weeks. Surely I'll get abs in 4 weeks. And then I can just stop going to the gym. I've achieved my goal. And then magically I'll just maintain that, obviously had no knowledge around health and fitness whatsoever. Long story short, 9 years later, I'm still obsessed with the gym. I obviously signed up for a more permanent gym membership. I've been going, consistently between 4 and 6 times a week. I'm pregnant now, so I'm actually been dropping that back down to 4 days a week. But back in the day, I would go, 5 or 6 days a week, genuinely because I loved it. But it didn't really come easy for me because I was always so thin. I never came from like a sport background. I'd had really no strength. Like if I had to open a jar of pasta sauce, someone had to do it for me. I had no chance of opening it. So it took a while for me to really persevere in the weights area and build up that strength and build up, I guess, the confidence as well to, progress in weights and stuff like that. So, So through those like 9 years of loving the gym, I've done multiple bodybuilding competitions. I'm a WBFF bikini pro. And through that passion, I decided, hey, like I'm really passionate about health and fitness. I'm really passionate about helping people as much as I can, from my pharmacist health background. Why not become registered and then be able to help women because I'll be, fully qualified to be able to help them. So I guess that's where it led into my coaching journey. And fun fact, actually, I was one of the first students to get a Cert 3 and 4 in fitness through National Women's Fitness Academy when they started a couple of years ago. And yeah, that's where the coaching journey evolved to and where our business started.
I love that. That is so cool. And I love the fact that you opened the conversation about how you started off your fitness journey by just wanting abs. Because I can totally relate to that, because that was literally me starting off my journey going, I just want abs, I want a flat stomach. And that was a way of us looking at what success was, like, you know, just through the aesthetic side of things. And like you said, 9 years later, you're still going to the gym, you're still training, but the goals have changed. And
absolutely, I'm no longer motivated by having abs or, you know, achieving abs, maintaining them. I'm motivated by so many other things. And it's more so, you know, not so much quantifiable things like how I feel, my energy levels, my mental state. Like that's what drives me to continue on with my health and fitness. Not so much, you know, all aesthetic reasons. But it's actually interesting that you mentioned that, because like I think a lot of people start off their health and fitness journeys, you know, with wanting abs or a particular body goals. But I think they really underestimate the time that it takes to achieve those. And also, it's very easy to look online or in magazines and you'll see a before and after photo. Obviously, they're everywhere. And you'll see someone with holding a bit more body fat, looking a bit more fluffier. And then you'll see the after photo, shredded, lots of muscle, like lean, abs, glutes, all this sort of thing. And they can look at that photo and think, if they don't come from, you know, the health and fitness background or anything to do with it, they'll see, oh, yeah, like that before photo is what my body looks like now. So that after photo is something that I can achieve in that time frame specified. So it might be in like an 8-week challenge or something like that. But what they don't realize is the amount of years that's gone into actually building the muscle underneath, you know, the layer of fat that they might see in that before photo. So they think that they can achieve that after photo in 8 weeks. And I was definitely like that too before I started the gym. I was like, you know, my body sort of looks like this before photo. I want to look like this after photo. And, you know, the time frame on this photo was stated, you know, 4 to 8 weeks, something ridiculously, you know, short in the grand scheme of things. And I was like, yep, I can do that. Yeah. Little did I know, as soon as I started, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, you realize that it's not just going to take you 8 weeks. It might take you 8 months.
Particularly if you don't have muscle, like if you haven't really grown up, you know, doing gymnastics or like sports, those sort of things where you've like naturally built a little bit of muscle, you can lose all the fat you like. You're not going to have a really, I guess, like muscular toned physique. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I'm really glad that you brought that up as well, because within the industry, a lot of us do look up to transformation photos because we have something to compare. But people don't realize there's also a back end story to this. It's not just the 8 weeks. It's, you know, the changing of the habits, changing of lifestyle, change of mindset, behaviors, values, like menstrual cycle, diet. Like there's so many variables to it, but they're only comparing just what they're seeing from left to right. And there's nothing wrong with that if it's more of a long-term progression. But like you said, when it's selling as just an 8-week success, it's selling a faulty idea to people, making them realize that, hey, you can do this within 8 weeks, but realistically, not everyone can.
Yeah. And I guess that's a huge part of like our coaching business. We don't want to be setting our clients up for failure by having unrealistic expectations when they start their journey. You know, like it's not about, we run 8-week challenges and I know that they get a bad rap because people think it's purely 8 weeks, you know, super restrictive methods to achieve the best transformation. And then off you go. You know, you're left to your own devices and chances are like you'll gain the weight back. We're not about that at all, which we'll go into. But it's really just showing and being upfront with like what are realistic expectations when it comes to achieving whatever goals that you have set yourself and in what time frame we would expect to achieve those.
Yeah, I love that. While we're on the topic of that, let's just dive into it. We've already spoken about the coaching side of things. What does that look like right now for you, and when a client comes on board to finding their balance?
So we, as you mentioned before, are a female-specific online coaching business. So we're all about empowering women to ditch the fad diets, ditch the restriction, take charge of their health and fitness goals through a personalized and evidence-based approach. It's about finding whatever balance looks like to that particular client and helping them with sustainable results through sustainable methods to achieve those, so they are able to maintain those results long term. So we are about helping people to achieve a physical transformation, but also helping them to achieve so much more than that. So it's a complete overhaul of their mindset and lifestyle to actually achieve and maintain those long-term results. So balance to one person might look like training 5 days a week and tracking their macros religiously and working towards a body composition goal. That's absolutely balanced to someone. Whereas to another woman, a balance might be training just 2 to 3 times a week, looking to improve their relationship with food and their health and their general well-being, and maybe having a bit more energy to run around with the kids. So everyone's goals and really the why behind what's driving them are completely different. And that's why we like to tailor our approach to the actual individual and what they want to achieve out of it. I think a lot of people come to a health and fitness sort of coach with the goal to lose weight or the goal to change their body and achieve a certain look. But I don't think that's what really drives people to stay with a coach and to stay with their goals, like their initial goals of weight loss or whatever. It's usually they feel a lot better. They've improved their relationship with food. They've improved their mindset. They might have improved their confidence. They've improved their strength, improved energy levels. And these are the sort of things that's driving them to continue on with, a health and fitness sort of lifestyle. It's not so much like, oh, I just want to look like this. I think it's what starts people, but not what keeps them going.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that.
Yeah.
To be honest, it takes me back to also when I started my journey, and like yourself, it was very based on aesthetics, but then eventually you realize, hey, it's not actually about me looking a certain way. It's about feeling a certain way or doing a particular thing outside of the gym that's actually going to help you with the training side of things that you're doing. And I love the fact that you also mentioned that balance looks completely different to everyone else. And it's true. And that's something that really pisses me off sometimes when people are saying, oh, you have to follow X, Y, and Z to do your morning routine, or you have to do X, Y, and Z to follow your evening routine or your training routine. It's just like, we don't live the same lives. We all are so different. And that puts so much pressure on someone who, let's say, is a mum, works full time and still trying to get in her sessions, compared to a 20-year-old girl who's at uni, who has more time, who's able to do more than the mum. So I love the differences that you showed before, making our listeners realize that your balance is going to look completely different to what my balance looks like as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like you said, everyone's got a different amount of time that they either can allocate or want to allocate to health and fitness sort of goals and protocols. So it's important to not set the client up for failure by, as a coach, we all know what the most optimal methods are and the most optimal way to achieve something, and the way that will get the best results. But that way it's not going to be practical for everyone. It's not going to be achievable for everyone. And you don't want to set the client up thinking that they're failing because they can't commit to, whatever protocol that you're setting. more about tailoring it to the individual and discussing with them what they actually want to achieve out of the coaching, and how much time they can realistically commit to it, and then us as coaches to decide what would be the best use of that time, what would be the best training program that would fit into like someone only wanting to train 2 to 3 times a week, or whatever it is, or like when it comes to nutrition, like protocols to follow with that. So absolutely, it's about finding what works for the individual, because what works for the individual is going to be a lot more sustainable long term, which means they're going to be able to stick to it for longer to achieve the results they want, but then also maintain the results once they get them. I think that's a huge part of a health and fitness journey. A lot of people just look at it as a short-term thing, like I did when I started, and you can achieve those goals in 4 to 8 weeks. Once you achieve them, you're magically just going to maintain those results while you slip back into your old lifestyle. Like, we know that doesn't happen, as much as it would be amazing if it did. So it's important about teaching someone the lifestyle habits that they'll need to maintain those results long term, because they won't be able to slot back into their previous habits and expect to still feel the same and still maintain those same results.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because if nothing changes, nothing changes.
That's it.
And you made a really good point just before about them wanting to take action for the long term, because I don't know about you or the certain clients that you've worked with, but some people, they have a certain goal, and if they don't reach that goal, they sort of, whether they blame external people for it or situations, and they just stop completely. They don't go over that hurdle and be like, cool, I didn't achieve it within the 4-8 weeks mark, I will continue. But certain people just think it's a failure and then just give up straight away.
Yeah, that's a huge I think probably one of the reasons why we developed and founded Find Your Balance was seeing, like, you're constantly watching people, and women in particular, struggle with doing fad diet after fad diet, with losing and regaining that same weight over and over again, with watching them commit to an all or nothing approach, and pretty much just watching them start unsustainable habit after unsustainable habit and not ever achieving their goals because nothing is sustainable. And so we wanted to develop a solution that works with their lifestyle, not against it. You're about empowering women that they can achieve their goals by just implementing small habits consistently over time, that will definitely get them a lot closer to their goals than doing an all or nothing approach. If you haven't exercised before, or you haven't exercised for a long time, and then someone gives you a 6-day-a-week training program and, tells you that you've got to cut out all these food groups and you've got to eat, next to no calories, how long are you realistically going to stick to that? Like, it's just not sustainable. Although you might initially get a really great result, you'll probably feel like crap, and you'll just slowly slip back into old habits because of the restriction and, the over exercising, and you're feeling like a failure because you can't keep up with them.
Yeah. And that's where that pattern happens when people do the 8-week challenges or whatever we want to call them, is, they have this nice peak and get the result. But then once the 8 weeks finish, they go back to their older habits because they don't know any difference. And then they go into another challenge, and then there's another, and then it goes right back down. And like you said, it's that fad diet yo-yo cycle of just going up and down, because they're not really finding that balance or sustainability for their life to make them go from point A to rise up to point B, in a suitable way for them, instead of looking for that gratification and getting fast-paced results.
Yeah. And this is why education is a huge focus of our business. We have on our app a learning hub that has over 75 learning modules on all things training, nutrition, mindset, progress factors, pregnancy and postpartum. So a range of different topics that really helps educate the client on the why behind what they're doing, behind our methods. And we believe the more the client understands why they're doing something, the more likely that they are to continue it. And a great example of this would be, meal plans, for example. Someone getting given a specific meal plan, although it's easy for a client because they don't have to require like any thought in the process. They've got their meal plan. All they have to do is cook whatever it says on there, eat that, and then problem solved. But it's not educating the client around nutrition at all. What happens if you want to go out to a family or friend's house or go out for dinner? It's very hard to eat on meal plan. Then all of a sudden you'll probably choose something that's not on meal plan. You feel like you failed. You feel like you'll probably just go off track now that you've already failed with that. Say you want to end coaching with this particular coach that gave you the meal plan. Chances are you probably haven't developed any knowledge to be able to continue on with your journey by yourself. So that's why we really wanted to create this learning hub that if a client, achieves their goals or decides that they no longer need us as coaches anymore, they are able to continue on with everything that they've learned and implement those habits, and they know about nutrition and they're able to adapt it to their life and continue on with that long term. So for us, that's a win. Even though the coach-client relationship might have ended, they are still so empowered to be able to continue on with that lifestyle.
And I truly believe that is the end goal for every coach, because you can't just hold on to a client forever and ever,
Absolutely. Like, although we'd love to, if all our clients would just stay on with us for years and years and years, that would be great. You get to know these women. They're great women. You get to know their life. But unfortunately, that's just not the case. People, move on. Their goals change, their priorities change, finances change, those sort of things. So, there will be a time in your client, coach-client journey where someone will, leave.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what that saying, when someone leaves, he leaves the door open for someone new to come into your world and help them achieve their goals. And you made a really good point about the meal plans. That's something that really pisses me off. I don't think I've actually spoken about this in the open on the podcast, but from someone who used to follow meal plans as a way of achieving her goals, where I didn't even achieve those goals back then because that meal plan was so restrictive. As you said, it doesn't teach you anything in regards to nutritional literacy. And it actually, I truly believe, from following someone can obviously disagree with what I'm saying, but I do believe that meal plans, like you said, that don't teach you anything. Yes, you can cook the certain meal. Yes, it's yum, it's delicious. But by going out there into the real world and going into socializing, eating out, part of it takes the trust away from you by diving into your intuition, by choosing the right choices for you, because you're used to just something like a piece of paper telling you what to eat. But then when you're out and about, you don't have a piece of paper. You don't have those meal plans. So you're shocked with all this information, and that's where you start doubting yourself and you don't trust your intuition enough to actually make a proper decision to eat a certain meal.
And that's a great point, because that literally happens when really anything in life, if you don't have to make a certain decision around such a big thing, and then all of a sudden you're given the permission or the ability to make that decision, then you're like, wait a minute, I'm used to being told what to do in this situation. I'm not used to having to think for myself when it comes to this. And you can sort of get that like decision paralysis where you don't know like what to do because you haven't really had to like flex that muscle in a while.
Yes. Oh my God. You've literally made such a good point around that. And that also goes back to coaching, because I don't know about you, Alana, but when I first started coaching, I was literally wanting to fix and help every client. But we know at the end of the day, you can't fix and help everyone else. You're there to coach them, you're there to guide them, to educate them. It's up to the client to do the work outside of those coaching sessions and practice it and put the effort into making those changes. So yeah, it comes back to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was the same when I started. You would give a client all the information that they need to succeed, like their personalized nutrition targets, their training program. You'd be doing the weekly check-ins. You'd be, really helping and educating this client. And it can be really disheartening when they say they want to achieve these goals, but their actions aren't aligning with what they say that they want. It could be through other circumstances happening in their life, excuses, or they're just not in that right mental state to really implement everything to the best of their ability. So it does get a little disheartening when you can't help the client, because you want to be able to help them so much, but you can only do so much for a client. You can give them everything, all the tools that they need to achieve their goals. But unfortunately, I can't actually do the work for them. I can't be continually next to them, smacking food out of their hand, or doing the training sessions for them, or going out for a walk, moving their body, all that sort of thing. And that's where, the client needs to take ownership of their journey, of their goals, and realize that it's a two-way relationship where we as coaches provide everything we can to help the client, but they've still got to do the work themselves.
Yeah, I love that. And I don't know why it came to my head right now, but looking at a client coach relationship, it's like having a relationship with your partner. You're not going to let your partner do 100% of the work. You're not going to get them to do the washing every day and wash the dishes and cook the food for you and put you tuck into bed and like shower.
Oh, look, it'd be nice. So I wouldn't.
It'd be amazing. But it takes two parties.
It's not going to work.
Yeah. It's two parties.
As nice and convenient that would be. Absolutely, that's not going to work in the real world. One person will end up resenting the other person. It's got to be, a bit of give and take and a bit of collaboration when it comes to everything.
Yeah, and exactly. There needs to be a collaboration from the client as well as the coach, and coming into that happy medium of the client being educated enough to realize, hey, you actually need to put yourself out there, as uncomfortable and as scary and as certain it is. You need to, put those feet in the water a little bit and start taking those right steps moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good. Oh my God, we've spoken about so much. My head is like full of ideas right now. It's crazy. Okay, so while we're on the topic of still talking about coaching and clients, what are some ways that have worked for you to help a client make them realize, hey, you need to start making a change?
I guess this really just comes down to our weekly check-ins that we have with all our clients. So no matter if they're doing the personalized coaching or our 8-week challenge, it's still a weekly check-in. And through our app, when they do that weekly check-in, they'll have to fill out a little questionnaire. How did the week go? All these things, some big wins from the week, some things that could be improved for following weeks, all these sort of things. And it's through that interaction and that information. We love it when clients give us lots of details. So the more information you have, the more information that you are able to understand the client and understand where you as a coach can come in and assist them and, help them to get out of their own way, to help them stop the self-sabotage, to help them identify times where they could be, self-sabotaging or those sort of things, and then strategies that we can implement around those to help prevent them from happening in the future. But yeah, it's really just through open communication, and the more open a client is and the more honest a client is about their progress or their compliance or their lack of, the more we're able to help as coaches. Because if a client doesn't tell you something, how are you supposed to know? Particularly if it's an online client, you're not seeing this person day to day. You can only know the struggles they're going through based on what they physically tell you in their check-ins, or, you know, just through communication, messenger, those sort of things. So yeah, like, we definitely encourage clients to be open and honest with us, and we really try and let all our clients know that we're not about perfection, we're about consistency. And the more you stop trying to be perfect and portray that your compliance is perfect and really be real and honest with how you're actually going, the more as a coach you're able to help that client.
I love that. Yeah, it's not about perfection. It never was, it never will be. And a lot of people need to get that ingrained in their mind.
Absolutely. It's so unattainable. No one is perfect. So there's no expectation for someone to be perfect when it comes to their compliance. You know, like, it's unachievable, and life happens. There's always going to be something that happens in life, something that gets in the way, something that, you know, makes you slip up or something like that. And that's life. And at the end of the day, we're not coaching, you know, bodybuilding competition prep clients where you need to have 100% compliance. We're coaching, you know, everyday women wanting to improve their health and fitness. So, you know, a few slip ups a week isn't going to affect your long-term progress. If you're consistent most of the time, you're still going to be making progress week on week.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that. What are some tips you can share with our listeners right now who are mainly coaches in regarding helping these type of clients to achieve more of a consistent base with their training or with the nutrition?
I would say have a conversation with your clients. Find out what drives them, find out what motivates them, find out what their goals are, and find out what they realistically can commit to. I think once you understand your client more and you have more information, you're able to tailor protocols to them. You know, if you're not asking questions and someone comes to you and they might be a busy mom and you allocate them, or you write them a 5 to 6 day training program, it's not really going to be achievable for that client if they don't have a lot of free time. And then you're probably going to set them up for failure to begin with, because the client will feel guilty that they're, you know, not achieving the original targets that were set out for them. They're not making progress because they can't do the 5 days a week. And then a lot of the time they'll be like, well, I can't do 5, so I might as well just not do any. And all of a sudden you get into this self-sabotage cycle. So I really think it comes down to communication and having that conversation with clients and seeing what is going to ask them, what can you realistically do? And then tailor your protocol to them. And then maybe once they start something that's a little bit easier, so, you know, it might be 3 days a week training, they'll be like, oh, yep, I'm really enjoying this. Can we add in an extra day? And then you can slowly build up from there. Or, you know, like, maybe it might come down to nutrition and here's a great calorie target to achieve, and get them to achieve that first. And then maybe be like, well, let's introduce macros now. Let's try and, you know, refine that, see whether you can reach individual macros. It's really, yeah, understanding the client, where they're at in their journey, their experience levels. Have they dieted before? Do they even know what calories are? Do they know how to track food? You know, all these things. It's just really not a one size fits all approach when it comes to health and fitness.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. And it's so powerful to have that open conversation with a client, because again, you're trying to build this rapport with them and build a trust on both ends, making them realize, hey, you're paying me for a service. I'm wanting to give you as much value as possible, but you need to meet me halfway and tell me what is a realistic goal for you right now. What can you do? Like you said, just finding a little bit more of their, everyday habits and seeing what you can change at a minimum base instead of setting them up for failure and them going back, 10 steps backwards and they're like, oh my God, she was the shittest coach ever. And then they just leave you and they're pissed off and then you're sad because they left.
Absolutely. You got to think what motivates a lot of people. It's usually like that feeling that they can do it. So, and they usually develop that feeling through doing. So it might be, hitting 3 training sessions a week, and they'll start to hit those 3 training sessions and they're like, hey, I can do this. I can actually achieve this. I can do this for longer than, looking at it as a short-term thing, like, oh, I've only got to stick this out for 8 weeks and then I can just, stop doing it. It's like, I could do this long-term for the rest of my life. I can continue to do this. And that's what's going to help the client long-term at the end of the day. It's not giving them the best protocol, because if they can't stick to it, then they're just going to stop it and they're not going to achieve the results that they want. And they won't feel like that was a good interaction or a good, way to spend their money. Yeah,
it's so value to have those conversations. I'm really glad we spoke about this today. I don't think I've actually spoken about this yet, giving coaches an understanding of how to go about, asking clients regarding their goals and, like you said, just building better protocols for them to actually achieve success instead of them leaving a coaching experience, feeling like shit.
Yeah. Which is definitely not what we want from any of our clients. So we definitely want to, do everything we can to help them and empower them and to make them feel confident in their self and in their abilities.
Yeah, and that's the goal, to be honest, is them having enough trust and confidence to be able to do the things that they've come to you to do and then eventually do them independently.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of the time, maybe especially during these COVID crazy times, people's work is all different. They may not have the finances to commit to something long term. So it's about, trying to help them as much as you can in that time that they're with you, and empower them to continue on with it afterwards. Because ultimately, health is everything when it comes to your life. If you don't have your health, then unfortunately, it really will affect your quality of life. So by helping more and more women, obviously that's our target clientele, but people in general, be fit and healthy, then it's only going to help the world.
Yes, 100%. Health is your number one priority above everything, even above abs.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when you're ranking it, it's way up here and everything else is below that.
Yeah, exactly right. Oh my God. Thank you so much for today's conversation, Alana. I swear, I think a lot of our listeners are literally writing notes down or they're typing something up going, I need to bring this up with my clients next time and make them realize that, hey, it's not just about the abs, it's about health overall. And hopefully helping them finding better protocols for their everyday lifestyle. But before we go, where can our listeners find you and how can people work with you?
Oh, great. So you can find me on Instagram. It's probably where I'm most active. So it's just my name. So it's Alana_Vogt. But also come and check out our business Instagram page. So it's findyourbalance.app.
I love it.
So that's where you'll be able to find us.
Beautiful. Well, there you go, girls. Go give Alana a follow. Send her some DMs, Ask all the questions.
My inbox is always open.
There you go. Go and bother her. I love it. Awesome, girls. Well, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please make sure that you share it, recommend it, leave us a feedback, tell us what you found helpful about today's episode. Screenshot it, tag the Women's Fitness Academy, tag myself, tag Alana, and then until next time, have those open conversations with your clients, girls, or with your coaches, and finding what that right balance looks like for you.